The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. My guests are Sue Carleton, who's the mayor of Georgian Bluffs, and Grant Pringle, who is deputy mayor. And we have been talking about all kinds of things that are important to you and, of course, to them. Now, before we leave the county subsection of our conversation, Sue and Grant, I wanted to ask you, there will be committees. You alluded to this, Sue, that there'll be a reduction in the number of committees at the county level, but there are some standing committees such as long-term care. There are other, agriculture was another one. Do you have any ideas of where you'd like to serve on the county committee level?
I don't at this point. I know there's also health units that I think there's 3 from the county will sit on that board. This new one that's combining economic development, tourism, mental health, and the climate change, it's going to be called like a community well-being or something. We do have community well-being committee as well, but this one's something a little different. I was trying to make a list of what all the committees were the other day, and I don't really know where I want to focus this time yet.
So you'll wait until the job descriptions come out.
Yep.
Okay. And Grant,
I'd like to talk to Grant about it first as well to see where he feels comfortable going and what's going to fit with his schedule.
And you know, I think that raises another point that needs to be made repeatedly, is that if the two of you are not on the same page or are not conversing with each other at county, it can not be a good thing, because while you are from Georgian Bluffs, you are, when you're a county councilor, you are thinking of the well-being of the whole county. So ideally you should be at least conversing, if not on the same page, should you not?
I think for Sue and myself, Sue and I have already sat down and discussed a lot of different things in the township, and I can't foresee us ever having a problem with the communication between Sue and I. I think we're both fairly open, and we want to do the best part we can for the township. So again, on the county piece to begin to, yes, I'm super happy to be there, but I going to have to be very delicate on where I go to offer extra services, because I do have a full-time job. So, but yeah, that'll be communication between Sue and I. We'll make sure that we're not doubling up or missing something. So yeah, it should, looking forward to it.
Good. Good.
And I think one of the good things about the whole COVID thing was that all our committee meetings like that, so we meet in person for county council, 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month, but all our committee meetings are now online. So we don't have to drive anywhere to be there. So it might only be an hour, hour and a half for the full meeting, as compared to add another hour or more for travel time. So it makes it easier to be able to do the county committees now. Sure.
And as we alluded to, this use of the Zoom technology, not just in what we're doing right now, but other, conferencing technology has made a huge difference to effectiveness. It's different, no question, but it does work, particularly for the political process and engagement. So good. So you had identified earlier some of the issues which were important: your water systems, the biodigester. What about short-term accommodations? That did pop up in the election campaign in a rather unusual way, but is our STAs and the municipality's response to short-term accommodations an important thing that people are concerned about?
I think so. We have to redo our official plan. So that'll be one of the things that's addressed in the official plan, what rules and regulations to put in, because you've got to be careful. Like, I have a neighbor here who has had a separate cabin on their property for probably the last 20 years that they've rented out. Never had a problem. So there's ones like that that are no issues. It's where we have absentee owners and they're renting it out and they're not there to monitor the situation. So how do you make those rules apply for both? And some of those absentee owners keep a pretty strict profile. Like my husband used to work for one north of Leith, and his boss was adamant about what the rules were and that they be enforced so that the neighbors weren't bothered. So it depends on the owner in that situation as well. So we've got to make rules that fit everybody and aren't too restrictive. And don't ask me what those rules are. Staff will come back with that report.
Well, we do have the advantage of some experience in North Bruce Peninsula, South Bruce Peninsula, town of Blue Mountains. They're probably the one that has the longest experience in this region. I don't think Meaford has got an STA restriction in yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. So, and I don't think Grey Highlands or any of the other county municipalities do. But there's people have done the spade work before.
That's true. There's reports out there. Northern Bruce Peninsula, you're right. Town of Blue Mountains has struggled with this for years. I don't know that they've found the solution yet. And there's a lot of other municipalities outside of Grey County with the same thing.
Sure. But you can foresee it being addressed in the next, in your term as council.
Yes, it should be this term because we need that official plan updated, I think, this year.
And that's another big piece that people don't realize, that the province mandates the update of the official plan on a regular basis. So it's not a nice to do, it's a must do.
Yes.
Now, where do you see some potential areas for updating? Just off the top of your head, where would you see some areas where you might want to look at?
Oh, I think for ourselves, part of that area where we need to start to look is at some of the bylaw issues we've got in the area, our own area here, to upgrade to get with 2022. Things have changed a lot in our area in the last, number of years. And I think we do have some, not all of them, but we do have some bylaws that need to be upgraded and picked through a little bit better and make some changes and just an overhaul, really. Are we doing anything really wrong? I don't believe we really are. We just got to get with the times and make some changes that we need to have happen. Just be prepared, I guess, is kind of the direction we need to go, right?
One of the common issues that I've heard probably since the last provincial election was that the provincial government is telling municipalities you must do things this way, particularly around housing. And that is, the current discussion right now around which we kind of don't see down here, but the whole Greenbelt issue is one example that the province is saying you must do it this way, or things like inclusionary zoning, which you can't do according to some elected politicians. But people are saying, well, just a minute, we need to have inclusionary zoning because we need affordable housing. Those kinds of things are on the table for discussion, are they not?
They are. The planning issues, conservation authorities, there's a lot of issues like that where the provincial government has got in on, and perhaps they should have stayed out of it, because we rely on that conservation authority for a lot of the reports and such that we get back. And if every municipality had to pay the staffing to do those same reports, taxes are going up. So a lot of what the provincial government is doing, not all of it, but a lot, is going to cost the municipalities. They're really finding a unique way to download some things onto us so that we're going to have to pay those expenses at the lower tiers. And that's not right. And I don't know how we combat that because they don't appear to be listening.
That's a very good point. It's you're not the first politician I've heard use the word download. And my golly, that takes me back 20 years, 25 years. but the word download is appears to be what's happening. I'm good to hear you name that, because one of the things that we've, for example, the county has an official plan.
Yes.
And it sometimes it has to dovetail with the lower tier municipal official plan. But you need planners on both levels to work together. People don't realize that the whole planning thing is incredibly complex and very intermeshed. So I think that, and I'm interested to hear you say the provincial government might have stayed out of some of this stuff.
I question why they've got involved in some areas. Conservation authorities, the way they came down on that one, they haven't changed the amount they've given Grace Sawbull in, I'm going to say 25 or 30 years. So it's become a smaller and smaller percentage of the overall Grace Sawbull budget. And yet they are the ones that get the final say in everything that happens. And the municipalities put in a far bigger chunk of the operating budget for conservation authorities. I think we should have a bigger say in what we need from them. It
Very good
makes
point.
you question why they're doing that.
Would it be possible that we are dealing with a country mouse, city mouse situation, that what they need down in the GTA or the GTHA, or that doesn't always apply to this particular part of the province?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Well, the old adage, may you live in interesting times, is probably going to be true for both of you.
Oh, yes.
Now, let's talk about the Recreation and Trails Master Plan. Can you explain what that is, Sue?
So it's how we're moving forward with our facilities for recreation. It kind of combines the facilities, the trails, everything all into one master plan. Looking at parks as well, they're included in that. And how should they be utilized? We are working on the Campbell Community Center right now to upgrade it, because it's been an ice surface that when that facility was built, winters were long and cold enough that you could freeze water on cement and have it stay for the winter. You can't do it anymore. So it's time to look at what's new, what's needed for the community. And we did have a presentation from the consultants, the architects on that out at Shallow Lake recently. And it was really good to see the number of residents that came out. They offered 2 suggestions for possible layouts, and everybody went into 3 different groups. And it was interesting that all 3 groups reworked the layouts almost identical and came up with some very creative solutions for that facility. The money has to be spent, I think it's by the end of 2023. So we have to get moving on that one. I'd like to see us take and do Kilsyth as well. Shallow Lake's in good shape, but Kilsyth needs upgrading. And then I'd like to see each one have a park, playgrounds, that type of thing associated with them for outside, because we're seeing more people move to these rural areas. And it would be nice to have a place that mom and dad or grandma and grandpa can take the kids and go and do their own workout while the kids are playing. There's a lot of other things can go into that as well, but that's kind of what I'm seeing is implementing the ideas that we were given to start with, but don't quit there, expand upon it and make sure we keep that plan growing and actually be utilized and make sense for everybody or for as many people as we can. And I'm sure Grant has some ideas on what should happen in that plan as well.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of stuff goes into that Parks and Rec scenario there. It doesn't matter, whether it be working with the Bruce Trail or any of those other avenues there for ATV trails, walking trails, and you get into the arenas too, and in the green spaces to be able to work outside. You take Kilsyth there for an example right now, where the new subdivision is went in there too. Well, at one time, 20 years, not 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the public school was across the road. So they had a play area, it had a play center, it had outdoor space to work, and that's all gone now. So to try and utilize the spaces that we have and implement better ways for people to move there, knowing they have a place they can go work out or walk a trail or do whatever, is places that we need to go to bring people here. I think they need to be able to get out and exercise and, not necessarily have to drive down to the Y or wherever to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of work to go into the plan here yet. And I think we've all got some great ideas and just to be able to use the spaces that we have available to us. We have some of the most beautiful trails and areas in the province, and it's nice to get more people seeing them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And actually, that Kilsyth subdivision, there is parkland goes with that, not just funds in lieu of. There's actually parkland that goes with that. I have this vision of a kids' play area in the middle with a walking, running trail around it, and then outdoor adult workout equipment all around that. Some of the things I think we could do that are relatively inexpensive, put up a couple of basketball hoops. They don't take a lot to maintain. They're not a huge cost to put in, and it gives the kids a place to go and play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'll have a wonderful opportunity to make this stuff real, and
Yep.
And this will be what's the time frame for this particular piece of work?
Kemble has to be finished by the end of 2023. The funds have to be spent. We haven't even started on the Kilsyth one yet, so that one's kind of open. We'll learn
Sure.
from Kemble and then start out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
Shallow Lake, we're fortunate with the shoal ices. They donated the playground there and the skateboarding. So that makes it a wonderful facility. It's got ball diamonds. Used to have soccer fields. So we've got more space there that we could do more with.
sure. Well, I was out to the Shallow Lake Community Center there from one of my flu shots or one of my COVID shots, and lovely facility. Very nice. Very nice indeed. So lots of potential there. And it's relatively new too, but within the last 20 years for sure.
No, it's longer than that, I think.
Is it?
It got
Okay.
upgraded in the last 20.
Okay.
I don't remember when it was built.
Okay. Well, we shall see how this plays out. Now, one of the other questions which other elected officials have raised, and it was raised in the certainly in the Owen Sound election, but also in other municipalities around, is, and I'm hearing rumblings at the provincial level about this, is they're starting at the very top with the Strong Mayors Act and doing some stuff around and some of the regions, those areas that have regional government like Ottawa and Hamilton and Toronto and Durham and Kitchener-Waterloo. Do you foresee that any of those conversations trickling down to the upper and lower tier levels of our municipalities in the next few years? Or do you think the government's just going to treat that as a third rail and not touch it?
I think as a municipality, as a mayor, I don't think I want that type of authority to be able to do that. I think as a mayor, you want to be cognizant of the fact that you want your council behind you and not them going in one direction and you're in another direction, because it doesn't work. It's not democratic. I think you want to all be working on it. By giving the mayor that kind of power, you basically have said your councillors aren't worth anything, and that is so not true. You need everybody on the same page. That's my opinion on it.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, it's probably a bigger issue in the larger municipalities than it is here. But again, has amalgamation been raised at any level? Is that beginning to bubble up? It did in some municipalities in terms of the conversation during the election, and I've heard politicians at the upper tier talk about it on and off. Do you think we're going to see that again, or is it going to fly away.
Yeah, I don't, sorry, Sue, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Grant.
Well, I'm just gonna say, none of us, I guess, have the crystal ball on what could really take place in this whole scenario. But again, as you mentioned earlier there about, what goes on in the big city, the Torontos, the Londons, the Hamiltons of the world, where does that trickle effect come down to the Georgian Bluffs and the Owen Sounds of the world and what they decide they want to do? Obviously, I think in Sue and myself and our positions are, we don't ever want to see that scenario come around that, they're going to decide to, upsize us to be part of somebody else, or, vice versa, we take on somebody else too. Again, having that crystal ball to say it won't happen, never to say it won't happen. We never thought we'd amalgamate 20 years ago either. So, and we have. So, yeah, I don't know. I would hope they would respect what has gone on in the rural areas of Ontario, but we'll have to see what the bigger picture is down the road, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing, and someone mentioned this to me when talking amalgamation, was that it might not be, say, within Grey County that Owen Sound and Georgian Bluffs or Georgian Bluffs and Chatsworth amalgamate, but is Georgian Bluffs better in Grey County, or should it be joined to Northern Bruce Peninsula and Southern Bruce Peninsula and Bruce County, and that becomes one new region, so to speak? So it was kind of put that way, that maybe amalgamation might not go the way it did last time. It might be on a little bigger scale.
Well, didn't Mayor Soever of Town of Blue Mountains propose that about a year ago at Grey County?
And you
And
can sort of see them with Collingwood and Simcoe County.
precisely. And if you, I mean, this is really far out, but if you look at the redistribution of federal and provincial ridings that's going to happen before the 2026 election, I believe, Grey Highlands is going to get hived off into a new riding.
Yep.
And, will no longer be part of Bruce Grey Owen Sound. And we just don't know. Probably more speculation than we would want to engage in, I guess. But it's always interesting to hear your perspectives, because people talk, and we'll just wait and see. We'll just wait and see. I guess at this point, what I'd like to know is, actually, Sue, you made a very interesting comment at your inauguration, and that was you'd like to see where during Committee of the Whole, council members rotate through the chair on an ongoing basis. Do you want to talk a little about that?
That sort of, for me, came from, as deputy mayor, I didn't really have a role. And it felt like for most of the term, I was really a glorified councillor. And I don't want to see that same thing happen. I'd like to see Grant have a definite role. The other thing is that we used to have standing committees. So everybody on council took a turn at chairing a meeting. Well, now that we don't have those standing committees, everything reports back to Committee of the Whole. Where does a new councillor get the experience to know how to chair a meeting, to know how to do some of these things, if we don't make sure it happens at our own council table? So that was just one of my ideas. I think for sure we're going to have Grant chair Committee of the Whole meetings. I will do council meetings. And if we ought to bring the rest of council into doing that as well, I think one of the things I'm looking at as well is, I don't plan on staying here for years. This isn't a never ending. I want to see somewhat of a succession plan as much as we possibly can, with experience at the council table. Because I think if we make sure we've got experienced councillors, they'll continue to get elected. And that is best for the township. And that's really my focus, is what's in the best interest of the township of Georgian Bluffs.
Well, let's be honest, your employment contract is only 4 years.
That's right. Yep.
You don't have job security.
No.
Yeah,
Any politician who believes that is wrong.
No.
Sorry, Grant.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea too, what Sue's wanting to implement here too. And there's no better way than getting your feet wet than actually sitting at the chair and taking that command on that. So I think it's a really good, great idea for us moving forward. And hopefully the councillors will buy into it too. And it just gives you an extra little piece of the business that goes on and the way the roles play out. So I thought it was a great idea when Sue asked me. So looking forward to that too.
Good. Are there any other changes? Well, let me ask this question another way. Where do you want to be, Sue, 4 years from now? And where do you want Georgian Bluffs to be 4 years from now?
I think we're fortunate with Georgian Bluffs in that we're coming in on a municipality that's in good financial shape. So I think it's maintaining that, building on that, and making sure we keep our roads up to, don't let anything fall by the wayside. One of the questions during the meeting out at Kemble was, would we promise to keep taxes at a 1% increase per year? And I have never seen that as being a smart move. Because if inflation went up 5%, if all of your staff are getting 1.6 or 2%, and you kept your tax increase to 1%, you're kind of going in the hole. It means now you're spending your reserves to facilitate the 1% tax increase, and that's not a good idea. So I want to see us keep moving and doing our budgets smartly so that we put enough money in the right places. We don't need to overspend, but make sure we put enough money in the right places.
We've got about 2 minutes, Grant. Where do you want to be 4 years from now?
Well, 4 years from now, for myself, I'd really like to be done my full-time job and maybe looking at something not quite as intense as what my job is right now. And as far as the township goes, I'm a lot with Sue there. I could foresee us having many decisions to make, but I just don't want us to go backwards. I want us to progress yearly or even monthly here moving forward. It's going to change on us all the time, but I think if we are fiscally responsible and really do our homework and do the little things right, we're going to move the township forward. Not necessarily at the end of the day, I just want us to move forward as a township and a good way and be positive about the direction we're going. So to put an actual, to say it's going to go this way, I can't really say that. I just want to make sure it goes a direction that's positive.
Sure. Well, I want to thank the both of you for being a part of Politically Speaking today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and to hear what's happening in Georgian Bluffs. And I know when we get back to you, there'll be more to talk about. That's one thing that is true about our municipal politics. It always changes. So Grant Pringle, Sue Carleton both from Georgian Bluffs, thank you both. And thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Watching hockey just got a power play with NHL Center Ice and Super Sports Pack. With up to 37 out-of-market NHL games a week, you'll always catch your favorite team no matter where you live. Whether it's big match